Then he said, a certain man had 2 sons. The younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of goods that falls to me. So he divided them his livelihood. And not many days after, the younger son gathered all together, journeyed to a far country, and there wasted his possessions with prodigal living. But when he had spent all, there arose a severe famine in the land, and he began to be in want. Then he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country, and he sent him into his fields to feed swine. And he would gladly have filled his stomach with the pods that the swine ate, and no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, How many of my father's hired servants have bread enough to spare, and I perish with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you, and I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. And he arose and he came to his father. But when he was still a great way off, his father saw him and had compassion, and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. And his son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in your sight, and am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, Bring out the best robe and put it on him, and put on a ring on his hand and sandals on his feet. And bring the fatted calf and kill it, and let us eat and be merry. For this my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. And they began to be merry. My dear Heavenly Father, please bless the reading of your word. In your name I pray, Jesus. Amen.
And I have spent every decent thing I am. Pockets empty, now it's you and me. I've been foolish, rash, unruly, taking pride in all I have taken from you. Now it's you and me. And this is love. Everyone but you. And this is love when I have turned my back away from you. And this is love when I have left you for the selfish things I do. And this is love that you still love me in spite of me. Seconds pass and I think back to every time I have said I am sorry. Now it's you and me. So can I say these words again, even with the things I've done? I broke your heart, now it's you. This is love when I give my heart to everyone but you. And this is love when I have turned my back away from you. And this is love when I have left you for the selfish things I do. And this is love that you still love me in spite of me. Morning comes and I think back to every time I have said I am sorry.
I know many of you today are familiar with this story and have heard it before. A story about a son who went astray and came back home and is only to be embraced by a father who was willing to take him back. Some of you have probably been that son, some of you have been that daughter, haven't you? I've entitled my message this morning, The Pigpen Road. I felt compelled to preach on this today. I entitled The Pigpen Road because the story is about a young man who's not content at home. It's a good home and he decides to leave and he goes down this road towards what he thinks is going to fulfill him in life. And he only ends up in a pig pen. And I think that there's a place in life, there's a city that we call Pigpen, that we think's really great. It's a place where we get to do what we want to do. But in the end, it's a pig pen. And I submit to you that there's a place in life that we call the pig pen where there's nothing left that is attractive about your life anymore. There's nothing more in your life that's desirable, and you come to this point where you find yourself questioning the value of your life, and why should you continue to go on living, and why should your life not end right now? If this is it, if this is the fulfillment of all my dreams that I finally pursued, and I'm left with this emptiness and this void, there's nothing left that's attractive or desirable. That's what I'm calling the pig pen today. I don't know whether it be living on the streets. Maybe it's in being enslaved to sin and you can't overcome the sinful habit. Maybe it's living in an abusive environment. What I do know is, though, that the surroundings, whatever they are, they may not look the same for everybody, but the end result is the same. See, some of you today might not have lived on the streets or been enslaved to drugs or have lived in an abusive relationship, but all of us have experienced a moment in life where we've seriously questioned of why we should go on living because there's such little meaning anymore. And all the things that we thought were going to fulfill us, all those hopes and dreams are laying there before you broken. And what I find is that there is in life this road, and I want to say that you don't get to the pig pen in one step necessarily. But there are a series of steps that if you will follow will lead you to the pig pen, will lead you to the place to where you thought you would never really be. The Bible tells us that the road to the pig pen is wide and that there are many who travel by it. It's a wide road. And there's lots of people walking down that road who will encourage you while you're walking down that road. In this story of this son, we see in verse 11 and 12, it says Jesus is speaking here, and he's telling this story. And he's talked just previously about a lost coin and about what you would do to find a treasured lost coin. And about a lost sheep, that you would leave 99 to go find that one. And now he comes to this story, and I love it because he begins, a certain man had 2 sons. What do you expect to happen after that? You expect a story or a joke, right? A certain man has 2 sons. And the younger of them, he's going to set up this story, and the younger of them said to his father, "Father, give me the portion of the goods that falls to me." I want to start by saying that the journey to Pigpen, the city of Pigpen, if I can call it, the journey to Pigpen always begins by taking your life into your hands. It always begins by taking your life into your hands. This father, no doubt, was a good father because it says that the father divided with them his livelihood. The fact that the father has something to give to his 2 boys tells me that this was a good daddy's home. It was a good father's home. That there was not want, that the meals were provided, and then there was plenty left over. There was plenty left over that he could even divide this with his sons before he even dies. And yes, this is an insult to the father, if you're wondering. It's kind of like saying, I wish you would hurry up and die so that I could have what I want. But the father does it, and it's an indication that it's a good father's home, but nonetheless, there was something in this son that was discontented with living in his father's house. He was discontented inside. He wasn't happy, even though his needs were clearly being met. And it was a good daddy's home, a home full of love. Maybe it was the rules of home. Maybe he didn't like Papa's rules. Maybe he didn't like having Papa set certain guidelines for his life. Maybe he didn't like the supervision that he sat underneath at home, or felt like he didn't have enough freedom to do exactly what it was that he wanted because he had a loving father who protected him and guarded him to help him make the choices that he needed to make. Whatever the case, he insists on being in full control of his life. And no one can tell this son any different. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? I know Tim McGraw certainly does. I quote him a few times, sorry, but says, you can't tell me nothing. You guys know that song? You can't tell me nothing. I sing that to my wife every time she don't listen to me. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. That there's some kind of discontent, and you insist on being in full control of your life. And I'm telling you, that's a dangerous place to be. For you to be in full control of your life. I don't care if you're 16 or if you're 96. You are not wise enough to be in full control of your life, to be making every decision without the advice of others, without the advice of good parents. Even if your parents have passed on. You still have others within your church. You still are relying not only upon the Father, but others within the church. But I find that in His love for you, this Father will let you go your own way. He won't stop to lock up the city gates. This dad, no doubt, was probably an influential dad in the city. He was probably very wealthy. He could have went and locked up the city gates and said, you ain't going nowhere. That's not the Father. The Father will let you go your own way. Why? Because He loves you. He tries to reason with you. He tries to beckon you.